Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Cambodia Retail Occupier Flash Survey webinar. Today, myself, Kesa, and Tad will be the presenter and a panelist as well for this webinar. The agenda for today, we will reveal our results of the retail occupier flash survey, and as well as to discuss some of the rationale and of our observations behind the result of the survey. So thank you for joining us today. Welcome, Bong Ted. How are you today?
So thank you, Kisa. So good and good morning to everyone, and welcome to our webinars. So I think it's a very good opportunity for us to share about our recent findings. So I'm glad to talk about the current status of our retail market affected by the COVID-19 situation.
Great. Yes, I'm also excited. Thank you. So let's move on to the next slide. The first slide here is just to remind you that we have a Q&A session at the end of this presentation. So if you are using Zoom, you can look at the panel of the Zoom. You will see the Q&A tab. This is for where you can post your questions, and we'll try our best to answer any of your questions at the end of this webinar. So without any further ado, I'll begin our presentation with the introduction to the survey or the profile of our respondents. This is actually a second time that we do the retail occupier flash survey. The first one was done in 2020, June. At the time, we were trying to understand what has been the reaction or response of our retailers toward the changes in the market because of the COVID-19 back in 2020. So this year, we decided to conduct this survey again with the help of our clients and retailers that are in our contact to conduct this survey. This time, we conducted a survey in May, somehow in the same period of time as last year. The total response that we received in this survey was 40 responses. It can be quite a small number of responses if you compare to most of the surveys that are being done. Anyway, this is a substantial increase from 25 responses that we received last year. And we hope to continue doing another survey like this one, and hope that you, our audience, can join us in the next survey. Although the number of response is quite low, it's quite small, but we believe that the industry that those respondents represent are quite a reflection of the current shares of our retail market, with majority of the respondents are coming from experience-based retail, such as F&B and services, especially in F&B. And then we also have representative of product-based retailers, including fashion, grocery, luxury, and other types of product as well. So moving on to the result of the survey, this is our findings. So from this point onward, we'll present briefly the result of our survey and asking for insights or experience or observation from Bong Ted. How has his experience dealing directly with our clients and retail landlord has been, and how would it resonate with the survey result that we will be discussing. The first question we asked our retailer were about their concern regarding the impact of COVID-19. Up to 80% of our respondents said that the loss of sales are their major concerns, followed by financial obligations and the safety situation. Quite similar to 2020, these were also the top 3 main concerns for our retailers. Other factors also taking more shape as well, looking at supply chain issue, the handling of infected cases and online delivery obstacles. So we are seeing that our retailers think they're more concerned about overall situation compared to last year. So for this, Mungthat, how is your observation regarding the retail sales performance over, let's say, the past 6 months of 2021?
Okay, thank you, Kesa. Actually, I think we can bring our view back to like in the year of 2020, because the COVID-19 outbreak have affected retail business in 2020, but to some extent we are in a good position to manage the situation. By the way, it comes to 2021, it is very difficult because of the outbreak, which we can see like the event of like 20 February that give us more difficulty to retail business. And also we have faced the real lockdown situation that also posed the obstacle of the business. And given this kind of situation, I think the main strategy that we can observe that most of retailers, they try to use their best effort with some kind of like online sale platform, and also seek help from the delivery service to improve their sales performance for this kind of period that badly affected by COVID-19 situation.
Thank you. We understand that our government has rolled out the vaccination program in the past several months. Do you think that overall has the vaccination program helped with the retail footfall and eventually with the sales so far?
I think this one many thanks to the vaccinated program by the government, because if we can see the number, like we got around like more than 3 million residents right now got vaccinated. So it gives us like opportunity to manage the risk from COVID-19 spread. So I think it gives some kind of like awareness to the people to when they go to shop directly with the concept store, or the so aware of how can they protect themselves from those kind of virus or spread. So this is like they can improve the customer number walking to their shop a little bit, but in the manner that really more careful and more protection themselves.
Thank you. You also mentioned the use of digital platform to help with the sales. In the next slide, we will discuss further on the shift between the in-store sales into the digital sales. Thank you, Mungthat. In the next slide here, another question that we asked our retailer was, how will COVID-19 impact your company's sales network? In another word is, what do you plan for the number of store or footprint that you have over the rest of the year? As a result, up to 65% of our respondents plan to reduce their physical footprint in some way, and in opposite to what we saw last year, while a lot of retailers were still thinking or planning about expanding their retail footprint. I guess this could be the effect or the shift, the result of the shift toward the digital sales. What is your take on this, Mungthat? Do you think that, sorry. Sorry, what is your view on this, Mungthat? Do you think that this result of the survey resonate well with the number of inquiry that we see in the past few months?
I think yes. I think we acknowledge the data and it reflects the real situations. When we are talking with our tenants, they say like if we're talking about the expansion plan, they say like we need to be more careful at these current situations. So maybe we just only focus on our good plannings because like we experienced it since 2020, but actually the bad timing that it happened again in like the event of 20 February events. So it it prolong our decision making to confirm the store expansion. So I think we are still on a good planning process right now, and then we just wait for the time being that we can find it comfortable, and then we can proceed with the specific planning and decision making.
Understand. So this is a result of a response from our existing retailers in Phnom Penh or Cambodian market. What is your observation in regards to the new entrants as we observed in 2020 so far, even with the economic slowdowns and the uncertainty around the infection? We still see a lot of new entrants coming into Cambodian market. Do you expect the same thing to happen within this year?
I think yes. If we're talking about the new trend and the new entrants, and we can take the example of recently shop opening of some brand that still interest in Cambodia market. Like we can see like the recent opening of like Paris Baguette and Papa John Pizza and Gongcha. And also I would like to highlight some brand that are known to be ready to open soon, also like 7-Elevens and also Pizza 4Ps. And also one interesting new like also like 9 US franchise also so interested to come to Cambodia market. So I think those brands still keep positive thinking about Cambodia market.
That's great news. Seeing all these activity still happening, although especially with the new entrants, although I believe there would be some challenges in the expansion plan, but it's great that to know that all these international brands and regional brands are still keeping their eyes on the Cambodian market. All right, move on to the next questions that we asked to our respondents. Actually, this is not a new question, sorry. It's actually a breakdown of the previous question into further into industry types. So I should highlight as well, because of the small sample size that we have, only 40 response, this can be could potentially be a little biased, but I believe most part of this question does reflect. We'll discuss more on that. As an observations from the survey result, we see that the footprint plan are more affected in the F&B sector and the cosmetic and luxury industry, whereas I'm sorry, in fashion, beauty, and luxury, whereas in F&B we see some kind of a mixed result of some respondents still want to expand their store footprints or to more store, while some other responses is almost divided by half, still thinking they should better shrink or reduce number of store that they have. Also in the quite an interesting one, we can see that grocery industry actually interested to expand more, if not staying the same. What do you think about this trend, Montet? Do you think that what could be the reason that we've seen that there could be a mixed response from all of this industry?
Actually, the customer behavior have changed before COVID-19. Mostly they prefer like if they want to buy some specific product item, they would like to go to the store to check. But now it have been changed for the customer behavior, and given the impact from COVID-19 situations. And for example, like in the category of fashion and cosmetic shop, so we sang to the technology and online sale platform. So I think customer they just go to their online platform and then they can buy, then they can trust and they can accept the standard, they can confirm their decision to buy a specific product item. For F&B shop category, I think it is like the hybrid, because some kind of like we can still have some kind of like from delivery service for our individual need at home, but some kind of like F&B place, it's kind of like place for meeting and also gathering. But to some extent, we need to aware of the COVID-19 also. So they need to, sometimes we can go, for example, like we can go to a coffee shop and then grab and then back, but we need some time, another chance to meeting for our guests also. So just only quick meeting, this one. So that's why the hybrid for F&B shop. And for grocery store, I think the online platform can be helpful, but with some kind of like age group, because mostly I think our elder at home, they usually go to shop every day, and sometimes they need to see the fresh quality of the product. So it is they need very interaction in the store. But also we need to make some kind of like careful way and protection way for the customer to go in this one.
So it's very interesting how some of this industry could be impact or benefit differently from the current situation. We'll see further. We'll have more questions and information broken down by industry so that we can understand better on how each industry being responded or responding to the situation. In the next slide here, we discuss further into the the use of digital platforms in sales. The question was basically to understand how many or how much sales has changed and become their core business by industry of our respondents. So it's quite interesting to observe that before the COVID-19, almost none of our respondents or industry taking digital sales as their core business, but even further into some mild outbreak in 2020, only some F&B have taken the digital channel as their primary source of income. But moving on to 2021, in the current outbreak, especially after the 20th February event, we've seen that some other industry, including luxury, beauty, cosmetic, fashion and apparel, also starting to receive more revenue or using the digital platform more engagingly. What is your observations on this, Montet? What kind of instrument or platform that being used by retailer in the digital sales so far?
I think even this kind of like situation, only the online platforms could be very helpful instrument for the retail business. So for example, like they start to use some kind of like their Facebook or their own web page to promote their products. And also sometimes each retailer shop, they seek help from the emerging concept called the online shopping mall. You can see now some some developer, they develop this kind of like online platform as the online shopping mall, this one. So then you can go to this online shopping mall and then you can see many variety of product, and then you can make decision and purchase your order also by some kind of like through the banking transfer?
Well, thanks to the emerging infrastructure, we've seen that a lot of digital platform and new startup are becoming more possible right now, or more feasible. Also, we are interested in looking into the digital penetration rates in the region. We did a little bit of research and saw that Euromonitor has published a study on the online penetration rate in Southeast Asia. Relatively, Cambodia is still quite low in terms of the penetration into the online platform. But this is a result in 2020. I think, personally, I think in this year particularly, this rate could potentially increase. But the question that I'm having in mind right now is whether this is the trend to be stay for a longer period of time, or they are just a temporary reaction to the current situation. What is your take on this, Mungthat?
I believe this kind of thing would be not a temporary basis, because I understand some age group and some customer category, they need time to have a quick learning on the online platform. But I believe they need to have this kind of ability to adapt themselves with this kind of situation, because I think COVID-19 have established the uncertainty that it is hard for us to predict the future together. So I think this kind of a model will be last in the longer period, but we cannot keep it silent for the physical store. We just take it the online platform as the complementary values to our physical store. Recently, you can see maybe even like Google also established their first store in US. So this kind of like they still understand the importance of the physical store in order to bring the real life experience to the customer as well.
Yeah, the debate regarding digital sale will replace the brick and mortar store has been around for some time now. I think for the case of Cambodia, we would expect both to grow simultaneously. And it's really hard to think about digital sale becoming a complete replacement of a brick and mortar store. I think a lot of our consumers still value and appreciate the experience that they have in store, coming and seeing the actual products. We couldn't take this away from them, at least in the medium terms, I believe. Right, thank you. Moving on to another questions that we asked our respondents. This is regarding their real estate portfolio. So we asked, how have your real estate leasing decisions been impacted? Up to 43% of our respondents said that their expansion plan or new opening plan has been put on hold. This is consistent with the another question that we discussed earlier. Also, we're also seeing delays in site inspections and delay in renewal of leases. This result is actually quite consistent with what happened in 2020, and also consistently occur in between experience-based retailer and product-based retailers. We think that the major disruption are caused by the uncertainty of the future evolvement of the market, and probably the safety concern with regard to in human contact when you go to visit the site. But we also noticed that up to 28%, that is quite a substantial proportion of our respondents there, said that their decision making hasn't been impacted at all. What do you think is the cost by of this 28% saying that their decisions are not being impacted at all, Mungthat? Unmute Bong.
Actually, given this kind of situation, we need to prioritize some kind of like stability, because I think both the developer, landlord, and the tenant themselves, they face the same difficulty. So this one, the mutual understanding is really important in order to bring the stability and to ensure the remaining opening of each business. Why I think that from the landlord side, they discuss with the tenant to provide some kind of like rental relief to help with this kind of situation, in order only want to protect all the business to remain at least opening. This is their achievement and their priority at this kind of period of time. And also the landlord themselves also try to ensure the safety and protections in order to ensure that the customer come in and then they can reduce the risk for the COVID-19 spread to the customer by invest in some kind of like the deep cleaning in some part, and also install some temperature screening and also alcohol cleaner, this one.
Well, we'll discuss further into landlords' reactions or discussion between landlords and our retailers in the next slide. So we talked about incentive briefly earlier, but in this slide, in this question particularly, we asked our respondents what kind of incentive has been discussed between them and their landlords. Obviously, the rental reduction has been the first and foremost factors to help release the financial burden of cash flow issue of many retailers. This rental reduction option has stand out by a lot compared to other type of incentives, but we also observed that almost all of other incentive discussion has also taken more shape if compared to 2020. So in those, some of the interesting trends are including rent-free period for new tenants, subsidy or supports in fitting out rental holidays, or even taking out the deposit becoming the rental paid. So these are the measures as becoming more accommodating from the landlord side. We'll discuss further into what our respondents or retailers think about this incentive. In this slide, we've broken down a little bit further to understand the rental reduction phenomena between our landlords and retailers. We asked, in case you receive the rental reduction, how much or what is the range of discount being offered by your landlords? The result is quite evenly separated, but we can notice that only 20% or 21% of our respondents say that they receive less than 10% reduction. But combined together, up to nearly 40% of our respondents saying that they received a rental reduction of up to 30% or even more than 40% if you're looking at the bright green, the two bright green and yellowish green pie. What do you think about this phenomena, Bong Tat? Do you think that the landlord is being very, accommodating at the moment, or do you think that there could be a potential, a possibility that they can go further into the reduction?
Thank you, Kesa. I think we can focus on the key term called interdependent business, because like the landlord need to depend on the retail business, and also the retail business also need to depend on the landlord and the customer also. So this kind of thing we need to kind understanding toward each other. I appreciate the model that very kind understanding from the landlord and the tenant. I mean, it's not like too much, but we need to based on the reasonable basis for the negotiation for the rental. So then in what way that we can accommodate, even the tenant need to consider about the operational cost, and the landlord also need to consider about their investment cost and also operational cost for the whole mall. So I think we come up with some kind of like the mutual understanding in order to make it work, especially to ensure that our business it can open together. This one.
Thank you. Now let's look at what our retailers think about the incentive that they receive. In this question, we ask whether you satisfy or whether you have received any relief from your landlords. Still, up to 47% of our retailers think that their landlords can be more accommodative, but increasing response saying that they are satisfied with the relief being offered. In that, you can see that up to 24% said yes, and we are satisfied, as compared to only 8% choosing that option in 2020. Same question again. We understand that the landlord has been very accommodating regarding the rental reduction, but there's also other incentives that we are seeing being offered. In other words, we're seeing that landlords are becoming more not only accommodating, but need to be also more creative in terms of the package of offer of providing to the tenants and new tenants. Do you think that this is the case, given your experience dealing with landlords in the market?
Based on my perspective and my experience, I think this is really supporting incentive given to the tenants, but also we need to, both of the landlord and the tenant need to work on the regional basis. For example, if the lockdown, it happened only like 1 month. So if we can bring any solution, we should consider about this kind of period of time frame that have been affected by COVID-19 situation, also not to be like too ambitious to claim more, because we need to understand the difficult situation together. So we need to accept some kind of like the operational cost is really a lot for us, for both the tenant and the landlord also. So we need to focus on the reasonable basis that we can provide some kind of like solution to the tenant, then they can accept and can try their best to remain their business opening to the public.
Thank you. We'll look into another questions. In the next line here, we ask specifically about the lockdown situation in abroad, whether our retailer has closed any of their store at all. Up to 43% of our respondents saying that they haven't closed any of their store at all, and 35% say that they're partially closed, either in terms of number of store or the operation hours that were during the period. And still we have 22% of the retailers saying that they completely closed all of the stores. This is interesting if you compare to the result in 2020, where only 8% of the respondents saying that they closed all of their stores. We understand that the lockdown has been a major concern or cause of some of this closure, but do we think that there are other causes or motivation or cause that cause this kind of closure, whether partially or completely closed?
Thank you, Kesa. I think this kind of what I want to stress the focus on the point like the customer behavior and expand main response of the customer. I think for the physical store, the customer reluctant to go directly, so they need to prioritize their need. If their need is really one, so they just spend maybe first time on the online platform first, and then they will spend less time on the physical store. So they just go in very quickly and then come out in order to protect themselves also. And also they need to prioritize their demand. This one when which item they really need to buy. So that's why the expand manner of the customer has been changed also, given the uncertainty and difficulty of the COVID-19 impact, because we are not know like how the impact will be prolonged longer or not, something like we are waiting for the opportunity that we can control and manage the situation of COVID-19.
It is very interesting talking about the online experience and in-store experience, although talking from a personal experience as a shopper, I think that I also shift many of my buys or purchase into online, but the experience itself is really isn't the same, exactly the same as what we had in store. There is this interesting concept called revenge retail, where we have seen this concept taken shapes in some other parts of the region, including Hong Kong, Taiwan, Korea, and some sort of, I think, part of Singaporean as well. Do you think that we will expect to see this kind of revenge retail where like a lot of buyers or consumers just go out and buy from the shops as soon as the situation under control? Do you think that we'll see this kind of situation in Cambodia?
I think this situation, I would like to stress the economic growth of each family. So it's not like before. So it is the opportunity for the income or revenues to the family. It really like currently we can ensure like stable. So they need to be more careful in terms of like their expense. And also they try to use another model from the customer perspective. Maybe they try to prolong the product life cycle. I mean, they can use a specific product longer. If it is not, I mean, their need is not a must, so they can keep using their existing product in a longer period of time. And if they really need, they will take more time in order to confirm their decision to buy a specific product.
Yeah, so our consumer does quite considerate about their purchase. So you're expecting that we might not see a revenge retail happen in Phnom Penh?
I think we cannot say a revenge of retail in Phnom Penh, but we just observe the situation together. But recently we can see the traffic of the customer is getting better right now. So going to like physical store and online platform. So I think we need time to think about the situation together, and then they can go back to normal. This one.
All right, thank you. The next question here, we talked about the expectation of business resumptions or sales to return to the level before the outbreak of COVID-19. In 2020, when we asked this question, a lot of respondents think that it would take up to 6 to 12 months or even more than 12 months from the majority of the responses for the business activity to return to the pre-COVID level. But in this survey in 2021, we saw that our respondents are quite optimistic when coming to the resumption of their business. Majority of them taken within 1 month or 1 to 3 months as the recovery time, as you can see in the graph right here. What do you think would be a motivation behind this optimism, or do you have any particular reason that retailers are being more optimistic as compared to 2020?
I think thanks to the vaccinated program that we have got like more than 3 million residents vaccinated. So I think it for the risk to COVID-19, we can say like we can manage the risk in the way that we are confident that like we can control to some extent. And also I think at the Q4 this year also the government tried to maybe make effort to bring back some kind of like foreign visitor coming to Cambodia, maybe within some kind of like vaccinated tourists. So this is the planning so far that we used to see in the news. So we hope that it could be happen with a good plannings and a good protection also. And also I think another positive thought is about the hybrid model between the physical store and online store. So it would be the adaptation model for the retail store I mean that they can start to invest in some kind of like technology a little bit in order to adapt to this kind of situation, so then they can improve their sale and their store can be dynamic to cope with this kind of situation.
Very well. Very well, thank you. I think when coming to talking about recovery, each sector might have different phases of recovery and different speed, and probably the recovery would take shape in different mode as well. So this is this question again, but broken down into industry as to who we see that being more optimistic. So as broken down by industry, we saw that F&B and fashions are particularly more optimistic, and other types of business, including electronics or services, are becoming less optimistic about the upcoming recovery. I think this we can draw back to Bong That's previous comment on the differentiation between the needs and the wants of our consumer. So looking from this result, we see that the a type of retails that are being the necessity, including food and fashions and even grocery, are becoming more optimistic and probably rebound or recover first as compared to additional demands such as electronic products or luxury products. Well, we have only one more slide, sorry, 2 more slides to cover in our survey result, and we'll move on to the Q&A session. So you still have time to send in your questions. Just a reminder again, we have a Q&A tab above or below in your Zoom panel. So do send us any question that you may have. Well, this is actually a final question we asked to our respondents. To what extent do you expect there to be a shift in your business strategy after COVID-19 outbreak? There has been a lot of factors to be discussed, but we can group them into 3 main or broad categories. The first one is digital sales or investment into the digital platform and the use of social media. Second category is the investments into in-store experience or expansions of their store footprints. And the third category are the diversification of supply chains and sales market to diversify the risk. So in the first category, the first two bars that you are seeing in this graph show that retailers are more interested in investing into the online platform and the use of social media as their marketing instruments. Up to, I think, almost 70% of them would look to increase their investment into these platforms. Whereas when we look into the in-store experience investment or the expansions of the store footprint, we saw that not many of our respondents would be interested in expanding or increasing their investment, but up to 40% and 51% of them interested in probably looking into decreasing some of this investment. We also see that majorly the diversification still remain on top of the investment strategy, whether it's about the supply chains issue or the markets that our retailer are targeting will be diversified. But we haven't seen a lot of change into or interest into the investment or using of the cloud kitchens, particularly in the F&B sector. So it's quite an interesting result to see in terms of the what COVID-19 have changed or shifted the investment strategy of our retailers. Showing from this graph, we're seeing that retailers are more intent to shift toward online more heavily. How do you think that the customer or buyers will respond in this case, Wong Ted? Do you think that I know we discussed this a little bit earlier, but do you think that there's any positivity or possibility that the adaptations or absorptions of the online platform would substantially increase in the case of Cambodia?
Thank you, Pesa. I think that the trend will be like keep increasing to some kind of like this kind of model, because I think we still highlight the base model to cope with current situation, and in the future scenario is like the hybrid model. We think about the physical store and the online platform that could have and give value to each other to maintain the business. And also, I think we need to ensure the adaptation of each concept store because due to the uncertainty, we need to be ready for any specific method that coming up. And also, I would like to stress the physical store that I think to improve the customer experience, we cannot leave the physical store. So we need to redevelop it in the way that, given the current situation, maybe we cannot go with big store as before, as the tenant requirement as before. They need to think about this smaller size. We can say like the word like size efficiency. So now, I mean, each retailer, they are at the paperwork level. So they are start planning how they can testing the new concept with some kind of like smaller size of concept store. And also like the design layout is also very important. I would take the example of some kind of like the coffee shop. So currently you can see when you go to each coffee shop, they have like indoor seating and outdoor seating. Indoor seating for the customer to enjoy the aircon cool environments, but the outdoor seating may be mostly for smoking area. But given the current situation, if I invite my guests to the coffee shop to have a quick meeting, maybe they say can be sit outside, I think that is okay. But after we sit and then we will smell some kind of like the cigarette. So I think in the future, they might have some adjustment for the design to make use of the outdoor space for the smoking area and for the public customer that can enjoy their meeting outside also. and it is the safe way to cope with current situation also.
Thank you, Ted. I'm going to end our presentation in this slide here. This is a sum up of our survey results so far, but because of the time running out, I'm not going to discuss this slide a lot, but I would like to ask for your closing remark or recommendation for our audience.
Okay, thank you, Kesa. I think to sum up, I still, my recommendation is like we need to prioritize the hybrid model between the physical store and online sale. And one more suggestion is like we need to see about the relationship. We need to focus on the triangle relationship like this, like the triangle shape. So it means like one angle it in charge by the landlord or developer, one angle is in charge by the tenants, and one angle is in charge by the customer. So this kind of thing we need to balance and leave the triangle shape together. Otherwise, it will break down the relationship and also the business. So we need to prioritize the triangle relationship among the landlord, tenants, and the customer.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much, Ted, for your closing remark and the sharing of insightful experience so far. Just to remind again, we have the Q&A session coming up in 1 minute. We start to see some questions sending in already, so we'll start answering that in a minute. After, I just want to share and remind our audience that our 2021 mid-year review is coming up on the 6th of July. So if you follow us before, you have seen that we do quarterly market update every quarter. But this time, because this is the half year, we'll turn our quarterly market update into a mid-year review where we try to reflect what happened in the past 6 months, and as well as compared to the forecast that we did early in January of this year, how has been changed and what did we get right and what did we get wrong about those forecasts, and also look forward into the opportunity and challenges that may come in the next 6 months of 2021. So if you haven't registered, please do so. You can go to this QR code or to our Facebook page there where we share this link, share this post and with a registration link. All right, coming back to the questions sessions, we have some questions rolling in already. The first question from our audience, I think this is a clarification of what we just discussed earlier. What is Cambodian government's current thinking and policy on the following: achieving 50% of the population on vaccines and allowing foreign arrival who have verified vaccination to prevent readmission with no quarantine? We cannot understand. We cannot answer on behalf of our government right now, but this is our observations of what we have heard from the public announcement. I think the plan was to first vaccinate 100% of the population in Phnom Penh by, I think, August. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think it's in August, and to further out to other population. I think the target is up to 10 million people in Cambodia by October or let's say Q4. On the consideration regarding foreign tourist arrivals, the government did mention that they are considering measure or incentive regarding this right now, but no actual announcement has been made whether these new arrivals will be required for quarantine or not. But I think the government is looking into easing out some of the restriction measures when it comes to vaccinated traveler. So I don't really have an answer for this right now. We're still also waiting to hear more from the government and observing the situation. But we have seen that some other governments or countries in the region, such as Thailand, Vietnam has, Thailand has been taking some action into this with less quarantine time, but not no quarantine at all. But we'll see further into what governments, our government or the regional government has to implement the rest of the year. In the next question from our audience, I would like to refer this to Wong Tat. Our question is, what retail projects or mall are planned to open this year, and what will be the new retail brands being implemented? I think probably this question is asking regarding the arrivals of new entrance, I think.
Okay, thank you for the questions. I think for the retail projects or mall, I mean, I think within this year, we some developer currently they are at the stage like some kind of like they try to develop their mall and try to be ready to opening to the public. Also, and another developer, some kind of like they are at the design stage in order to provide some kind of like a nice design to welcome to the customer, especially with the community mall. So you will see, I mean, in Q3 or Q4, will be there is like a coming of the opening of some kind of like community mall in Phnom Penh. I think maybe around like 2 or 3 coming up. And for the new entrant brand, I think as I mentioned before, like the international brands still so interested to come to Cambodia, and they already saw the ready plan to open like 7-Eleven and Pizza 4P to open in Cambodia also. So also we cannot disclose more, but there is some kind of like becoming interest to come to Cambodia market.
Thank you. Linking to this question, another question from our audience interested in the expansion. So we discussed earlier that we still see quite a lot of respondents still stick to their expansion plan. Not many, but like some of them. The question is whether this is true across the whole market, or whether this is just for the international brands or the one with a chain store with stronger financial capacity.
I think this time we focus on the investment cost and also the stability of the investment stock also. So I think this kind of like the opportunities basis. If you can grab the opportunity, you can enjoy some kind of like special rent offer or special offer from the landlord. So this kind of thing, I think they also eye this kind of opportunity to expand for their physical store. But I just still highlight my suggestion, like they will study about the base layout, about the site efficiency in order to develop their physical store as the adaptation store to the COVID-19 impact.
Another question, again, quite interesting. Why are there fewer international retail brands entering to Cambodia if you compare to Thailand or Vietnam market?
I think this kind of thing we need to see about the market size. So sometimes the brand they ask for the market that they can accommodate for a specific store that they can open. For example, like one luxury brand, if they want to come to Cambodia, they cannot open like 1 to 5 stores. They might need to open around like between 20 to 30 stores. So whether our market can accommodate this kind of store operation. I think, for example, like the population of Phnom Penh city, it around like 2.6 million something. So I think they also think about the market that can supply to this kind of the coming brand. So that's why they consider our neighboring country, but we talk with them. They really show kind of like positive interest. They like Cambodia market. To some extent, they will come.
This is my personal question, but I think it's interesting to understand when we talked about international retail brands entering into Cambodia, what type of industry that we are seeing right now? Is it F&B or fashion or other type of consumer products?
I think so far we have very good tenant mix about F&B, food and beverage tenants. So I think we have very many branding, many good branding and good operation of F&B brand in Cambodia already. But I think currently we are trying to seeking the interest from the luxury brand. So that's why it might take time for us, because this one is really high profile business manner. So it might take a little bit time, and also we need to provide some kind of like very clear information, accurate information about the market, and then they can show the confidence about our market, and then they can come.
Thank you. We're running out of time, really, but I would like to take on just one last question. Why do you think cloud kitchens have not been picked up in Cambodia as compared to other business strategy?
Actually, one of the business person talked to me. They want to develop some kind of like cloud kitchens, but there's the question in my mind back like trust of the customer is really important. For example, we seek help from delivery service, but we also know which place that we order from. So this is the trust of the customer. And they use the delivery service. It means like the price is acceptable, and also the quality is acceptable. So then they can, they don't care much and do not use longer time to make decision. And also they trust. Also, then they can make decision, and they know the product where they are come from. The origin products where it made. So this is the trust of the customer.
So it's the brand loyalty.
Yep.
All right. Thank you, Ted. Thank you, our audience. We have come to the end of our presentations of the webinar. Of the results of our survey and Q&A sessions. So this is our contacts in case you have any other questions that we haven't answered during this webinar. Please feel free to reach out to us. Either through our research consulting team or the retail services team. So thank you very much for your participation in this webinar. We look forward to seeing you in the future one. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Have a good day.